not to make it too long for the beginning, I would like to give the floor to Mr. Markkula, who is very much involved in innovative processes and supporting entrepreneurial ecosystems. He's the chair of the Espoo City Board and the president of Helsinki region, one of the best performing innovative regions in the European Union. So it's a very great pleasure, Markku, to have you here today, and I will give the floor to you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, and great to be with you and see, and again, through virtuality, meet so many of my good old friends and some new ones as well. But we've been doing so much within the Baltic Sea region on a broad scale, so that now it's really challenging that I can contribute on this event. And I need to say immediately that I have actually another meeting, important meeting on my local level on the master plan for the whole Espoo city board just starting. So I will jump to that immediately after my presentation. So, but I will have a chance to look on the recording of the panel discussion and others later on as well. I prepared a few slides because I wanted to challenge a bit. So the panel discussion, putting there, let's say, the bit broader and deeper frame for the coming discussions. And in the first slide, so I took a list of these, let's say, grand societal challenges seen that from the technology perspective. This list is from the VTT, the Technical Research Center of Finland. And what especially now when we are having the climate change and aging issue and many other these burning challenges. So we need new technology assisted solutions, not only technology, but what the technology can bring to this. And so in the list, I have these systematic challenges. So we need to have more systematic approach. And this is, with many respects, this is what, let's say, the BSSSC has created within the last years on the Baltic Sea region. So how we can contribute, not to have just separate projects and separate activities, but looking what we can together do more to change the mentality. And especially now the systematic challenges where we need new knowledge, new technology, they are focusing on carbon neutrality, how to increase the productivity, which actually should go much faster than so far. And then the resilience issue, but especially societal resilience. And that means as well security issues, how the societies function, what is the fiscal sustainability, and how to develop further the welfare system, well-being of citizens while demographics shift. And then there are these more technology-oriented challenges, the quantum leap in throughout the whole computing systems, the super performing materials throughout the whole, let's say, life cycle of the materials, what can be done on that. Then the artificial intelligence and other superior digital systems, what we can get out of that. So how we, as Espoo case as well, so how we are doing much more now with the artificial intelligence already in the city processes. And then the seventh is the biology, biotechnology, bio-inspired production, synthetic biology, and so on. So using this as a starting point, so, and this is one of the reasons of this, we need to have much more out of the scientific and technology research. So there we need this ecosystem thinking. If we move to the next slide, so, and I will here highlight so that actually what I have here on the left, so it's the Helsinki region, our smart specialization strategy in the new format. So where are the three priorities strongly linked to the climate and energy and fast changes that are needed, but then as well digitalization. What does that mean for the cities or citizens, particularly the participation and the use of ICT, global networking and so on, but as well how we do the industrial renewal by the help of digitalization. And what I here as well want to stress that when we now have much more than, let's say, 5 years or especially 10 years ago at the EU level, these instruments, financing instruments, but concrete measures as well to increase and the ecosystem thinking. And now recent years it's been moving very strongly to form the collaborative platforms. And to me, the Baltic Sea collaboration, on one hand, that is very much how we develop our networking to the next level, where we have this place-based innovation ecosystem development, where we share the good practices, where we learn together and move ahead. And then I've taken there in the title as well the ERA hubs, the European Research Area new hubs, which has already been strongly emphasized in the new Commission policy. Last September, during the Research and Innovation Days, Commissioner Maria Gabriel announced the establishment of these ERA hubs and took Committee of the Region having a strong role on that. So it's these ERA hubs, they are not new scientific research as such, but they are more to create new instruments, collaboration seen from the societal perspective. So how the scientific and other new knowledge is implemented through innovation to real life practice. And then linked to this is as well, so I can highlight that the Green Deal, that should not only be about tackling climate change or how we can achieve the UN SDGs, but this needs to be much more, and the research area, the Green Deal, new Bauhaus and many others, how we can create favorable conditions for more profound societal transformation at the local and regional level. This means accelerating positive change all around Europe, and how we should do more together with our local industry, how to get the industry involvement on a much higher profile than so far, but as well so that we form the partnerships in Europe. And that is, then I've taken this on the right hand side of this 4 different reports, and you can find them through the net, or if you don't, so then just ask our Helsinki Uusimaa Regional Council office, they will help. So it's about how to do the local voluntary reviews. Helsinki did that already 2 years ago, 1.5 years ago, and Espoo and Turku, Åbo did that last summer, produced, as the case of Espoo, 200-page, very detailed document how we implement these sustainable development goals. And that was the report delivered then to United Nations in mid-June in the high-level ministerial UN meeting. And then we have a link to that is the Espoo Innovation Garden, the Joint Research Center report that they did as the first report on what is this place-based ecosystem mean in practice. That was done 4 years ago by the Joint Research Center of the EU. And then there are 2 other reports showing what Espoo and this ecosystem development has been. And if we take then the next slide, so I started there, I took as a starting point, so what the new Bauhaus is all about. So it's not only about the architecture and buildings, but it's above all, it's the mentality towards creativity and the strengthening the ecosystemic capabilities of people, and creating the new kind of mindset. And I took there at the background a global the picture of the globe. And if you click further one more time on the screen, so move to the next or next phase of this slide. So then these operational capabilities, kind of management capabilities, they are the ones that I was creating for the Aalto University together with a small expert group already 10 years ago. What is the target of in our case, the ecosystem around the Aalto system is to train and educate game changers. And there I took that 4 of these key, let's say, more operational capabilities, dealing with the user centricity, concept development, innovative and innovation and commercialization of the processes, and as well network engagement. So do more together, and click once more on that. So then I added there the what are the leadership capabilities, and these are especially needed for us, the policymakers, that we need. In a way, the red ones, they kind of focused on the looking around us, what is inside the world and how we are operating in our own organizations. And now these blue ones, they are kind of opening up these capabilities more for the global perspective. And here integrating to that the foresight issues, the environmental sustainability issues, the whole issue of life cycle agility, and as well cultural nurturing. And these are especially the foresight is now last summer EU Commission published the first EU foresight report, but there's much more going on. And if we think these, if you click once more, so then I added that these are the ways that even in our regional basis, this is something that with Ossi, Savolainen, and I will talk more, and we've been developing our new, when after the municipality elections, we will have the new policy makers in charge of the region. So how we can integrate their work to be not just making decisions of project funding, but how to operate as teams on the core of the ecosystem orchestration, having many parallel activities, integrating. Take an example, our recovery funds on the activities that we are operating on the local level. And there are the 4 points, starting with the network-centric working culture, ecosystemic architecture, and very well targeted orchestration of different operations and projects, and then create this collaborative value creation mentality. And now if we move ahead, so then the next slide, so I just want to show that there are a lot more the instruments coming from the Commission as well. One of the best examples is that last November, and now the second time with the Commissioner who is in charge of especially the education, culture, and innovation. Now in this case with the Maria Gabriel, she as a commissioner, and then the committee of the region signed by our president Apostolos Tsitsikostas. So we signed a joint action plan, and there I took some bullet points out of that. So showing that for the regions and for the cities, we have much more of these instruments. And I highlighted just let's say the 3 categories of those with the yellow color, the evidence-based policy making in the regions. There are many of those examples. Many of you have been involved on Science Meet Regions, or this knowledge exchange platform, or the innovation camps, and so on. The second group is so really the moving now ahead with the ERA hubs and other especially climate focused activities, and the 5 coming huge research missions, which will be each EU money, billions of euros on each, both research but the innovation processes as well. And then the third part is really that how to raise the awareness between both the policymakers but citizens, how to get this involvement and engagement as well. So I don't go any details of that, showing on that for the ecosystem thinking we have much more to do and we can do. And if we jump to my last slide, so that is now that kind of summing up. So what is really needed? So I took there the map of the Baltic Sea environment, and as well the front cover of the report as a result of the smart specialization activity that many of these Baltic Sea regions we were involved and engaged with the universities organizing the innovation camps all across. Unfortunately, then the COVID came, and then the last innovation camps were only on the net, so we did not have a chance to meet personally. But part of that plan was that we, the policymakers, now I look myself, Rainer, Roger, and the others, and Jörg as well. So we should come face to face for, let's say, 2 days, book the time to go deep, what we have learned, what these innovation camps have brought to us, and how we will move to the next phase of this collaboration, integrate that to the Baltic Sea macro-regional strategy. And I wrote last evening 7 key bullet points. So what should be done, where we need to focus, and the let's say the number 1 and 7, so the red ones, so they are kind of first that we need to improve our own decision makers' understanding of the innovation ecosystems. And what is their role, how we can, with our as policymakers, we can attract the universities and research centers to do more with the top industries and with us. And then the last one, the 7th, is now that we should launch whatever kind of process, think and discuss about that in the panel, hopefully, so that how we create together the Baltic network of these place-based innovation ecosystems and take that as a forerunner for the whole European Union. And the 5 others in the middle, so they are more like elements for this launching this collaboration project. And so, but the ones very concretely already existing instruments and where the European Union is really looking forward to concrete outcomes and how the process is being organized. So this is, let's say, my kind of challenging you to continue the discussion on your panel, but let's then come back later on with the results of today's webinar. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Markku, for this great and inspiring introduction to our event. I'm really happy that the cooperation and this exchange and building platform you mentioned and you strengthened so much also in your presentation. And I think that today's event is a great possibility to build and expand the platform that you've talked about. And expand also the partnership that you have already built during the projects like IER project, which was very successful and already drove innovation in some of the regions, but some were left, like for example our Pomorskie region. So we would be very gladly also to join this partnership and this discussion. So I think there is still a lot of possibility of building this pan-Baltic network. But now I would like to welcome also other great panelists of our political panel to talk about how the Baltic Sea regions and cities can serve as driving forces to support young and academia-based entrepreneurs, because this young and academic entrepreneurship is in focus of our today's event. So first of all, I would like to welcome Mr. Mieczysław Struk, the chairman of Pomorskie region and the Pomorskie region marshal and the chairman of BSSSC, Mr. Ossi Savolainen, the regional mayor of Helsinki Uusimaa Regional Council, Mr. Roger Ryberg, the country mayor of Viken County of Norway, and the previous chairman of BSSSC, and Professor Jörg Steinbach, the Minister of Economy of Land Brandenburg. Welcome again, and I will now give the floor to Mr. Struk for the opening words and the insight from the Pomorskie perspective.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure as the current chairman of the Baltic Sea States Sub-Regional Cooperation that we gathered today at the BSSSC organized event to discuss and exchange ideas on young and academic entrepreneurship. The topic of great importance to every region and its inhabitants. Economic development and the achievement of competitive advantages by individual countries and regions in the modern world are increasingly dependent on the speed at which new innovative economic entities appear on the market. Therefore, the efforts of public authorities are often directed at the development of entrepreneurship and the intensification of innovation processes. The transformation of knowledge into new products, services, technologies, or organizational solutions requires appropriate infrastructure, including centers of innovation and entrepreneurship. Living in the Baltic Sea region means being privileged in many contexts. We are known as one of the most innovative and entrepreneurial regions in Europe. For most of us, pre-incubators, technology parks, incubators, technology transfer centers, loan and guarantee funds, seed and venture capital funds, business angels, and clusters are the reality, which we witness all around. However, we also know that there is still much to do. That is why the focus on the innovative forces unleashed by young and academic-based entrepreneurs are so crucial for our regions to observe and strengthen. The innovativeness of the economy largely depends on the ingenuity and entrepreneurship of the scientific community, because universities are the centers that create the attitudes and personalities of young people. The intensification of cooperation between universities and academics with the business community, local and regional administration and support institutions is the key to success. And we all must still work on mastering this cooperation. Support for academic entrepreneurship should be comprehensive at the regional level. This requires the cooperation of universities and their pro-enterprise structures with technology parks, clusters, venture capital funds, etc. Success in this area depends on the initiatives of regional and local authorities leading to the development of regional innovation systems as a cooperation network of enterprises, administration, scientific and research institutions, and innovation centers. The challenges faced by Pomorskie make it extremely important to shape entrepreneurial attitudes both among children and students as well as among those already working and seniors. The postulate of the development of key competencies, including entrepreneurial attitudes at all stages of education, results from the recommendation of the Council of European Union, which we fully agree with. The European Union, in the face of globalization and the transition to the knowledge-based economy model, promotes the development of entrepreneurial attitudes from an early age. Currently, there are many initiatives, projects, and programs in the Pomorskie Voivodeship aimed at shaping entrepreneurial attitudes among students and pupils, understood as inter alia, independence, resourcefulness, responsibility, creativity, efficiency. Society's activity in the field of entrepreneurial activities contributes to the increase in the number of entities stimulating the region's economy, which is why it is so important to support such activity. The self-government of the Pomorskie Voivodeship acts in this respect on many levels. One of our flagship activities is the coordination of the implementation of programs addressed to all inhabitants of the region, influencing the increase in knowledge and changing behaviors and attitudes in key areas of social life, in particular civic activity and equal treatment, culture and regional identity, environment and climate, healthy lifestyle, digitization, and entrepreneurship. For young talents, high school students, university students, there are dedicated grant programs financed and implemented together with employers to mobilize young people to plan their future, from education to the labor market. Pomorskie strives to become a leader in setting trends in education, educating creative, courageous, and self-thinking people by supporting the development of social and entrepreneurial skills and competencies, thus creating an ecosystem for young people that will support their development and the implementation of professional ambitions in a friendly city and region. The priority is to reach the widest possible group of people and environments that will be involved in the process of entrepreneurship education. I hope that discussion and exchange of good practice, which we promote today, will add to the further development of entrepreneurial spirit and innovativeness in our regions. I also trust that our today's dialogue will enhance the cooperation between our regions in this respect and enable a constant transfer of knowledge, equipping us with better tools to design and develop appropriate policies to boost the entrepreneurial and innovative ecosystem. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Struk. I would now like to give the floor to Mr. Ossi Savolainen. I know that Ossi will have the presentation, so we will share the screen for you in a moment. Just please let us know when to change the slides, please.
Yes, thank you very much. It's so nice to see all of you there. And I'm very sorry because I'm in my home office now because I have to see my doctor for a while and I have to leave in half an hour and I couldn't change that time with my doctor now. But anyway, yes, you can, I say then what kind of slides you can put there. Fine. we can start with this one. And I think so that I'm going to tell you a little story during these 10 years, what has happened in our region. And then at first I have to go back in time 10 years. And it was year was 2012. We were awarded, as you know, European Entrepreneurial Region, among the first regions for our strong promotion of young and academia-based entrepreneurs. And one of those involved in that project is maybe you know Mr. Ilkka Paananen, who is the founder of Supercell, and nowadays we can say that he's a multimillionaire. And I remember very well that during that time, why he has chosen to be as an entrepreneur. And he said many times for me and for us that why he has started as an entrepreneur, and reason was because he couldn't get any other jobs, and that's why he chose that kind of career. And also, if I think about, for example, my story, me and my family, we have been entrepreneurs many decades. But when I discussed my father, it was very strange because my father wanted me not to become a successor to his work. And as a result, I became an official and now as a regional mayor. And now I have many times thought that why my father, why he has this kind of opinion and attitude. And maybe the most reason was so that that kind of work during that time in Finland, it wasn't so easy to be as an entrepreneur. But let's go back to the 2012, and during that year, more than 100 events, especially promoting youth entrepreneurship. Also, we had over 1,000, maybe more than 1,000 participants involved. And it is also worth mentioning that Helsinki Think Company was a spin-off that turned into a permanent operation to promote entrepreneurship in the University of Helsinki. And of course, we were very proud about that award, and it was very good start. It was a kind of starting shot for new kind of attitude for enterprising. Just before that time, entrepreneurship was not very popular among young people, and before this time, much less, as I told you. I think that young people, those students, they wanted to get jobs and wanted to see the future, preferably, for example, in Nokia, or for example, in bank sector or in other sectors, Stora Enso and so on. But as to be entrepreneur, it was very low, and attitude, it was rather negative, if I can say. And now I would like to show you how we see or how we define entrepreneurial on enterprising. You can put not that slide, it should be, can you change, not that slide, it was the first one, but you don't have that. Okay, anyway, it doesn't matter. And how we see and define nowadays entrepreneurial or enterprising. Enterprising is I can say that it's characterized by taking of financial risks in the hope of profit. It's also having the spirit, attitude of qualities of an entrepreneur. And we see that entrepreneurs are those who are in the process to validate whether the idea of invention create value. And how we see what is our role, region's role as an entrepreneurial region. We see that entrepreneurial regions are those who constantly seek to validate how public policy create greater value to the startup and business community, and also they are willing to take the risk and act. And as a reason, we have also act very much, and we also have to take risks. But what was happened also during these 10 years? I think that in our region, we have a particularly strong record in the field of business education and entrepreneurship of different levels and stages of education, from basic education to universities. And now, almost 10 years later, we are here in our region aiming to create the ideal environment for the future-minded and sustainably driven new generation of entrepreneurs to take the next step and put their skills at the service of a deep social and economic transformation. Then you can, yes, you can put that slide. Where is that green base? That next one. Can you change that slide? That one, yes, very good. And we see that solid and sustainable SME sector is key to recovery and for creating local jobs. I think that why we were awarded for a second time. It's a new model of growth based on accelerated digitalization and sustainability to help deliver on climate neutrality by 2035. And this award for our regions gives us faith and also strong trust that we can be a platform to tackle these new challenges and, of course, collaborate as well locally and internationally to invent an integrated green, digital, and entrepreneurial future. Then you can put that last slide. And now we want to say that, come on and let's make this happen. Join us to collaborate with entrepreneurship ecosystem actors to foster circular and digital business creating and to develop digital and green skills of aspiring entrepreneurs and SMEs. And I think so that this was my very short story in this webinar. And I'm so sorry that in 20 minutes I have to go and go to see my doctor. All the best, all of you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ossi, and health comes first, so don't.
Yes, that's true.
So you will be able to see our recordings online, and we keep in touch on the.
Very, very good. Thank you very much.
So I would now like to move to the next point, and our next great guest speaker, Mr. Roger Ryberg, Country Mayor of Viken County and Eastern Norway County Network representative. Roger, can you hear us and see us?
Yes, I hear now.
I can also see you now and hear, so
yeah.
Hello and good morning.
Good morning to all of you, and I must say it's
Okay, we cannot hear you. We lost Roger, probably some problems with the internet connection. Okay, so Gosia, możesz na... Okay, so Roger has some problems with connection. So if it's possible, I would then ask now Professor Jörg Steinbach, Minister of Economy of Land Brandenburg, for his speech, and I hope that Roger will join us in a moment when he will settle down these technical problems. So.
Well, good morning, everyone. I'm very happy that I'm able to join you here this morning. My role is perhaps a little bit hybrid in character because, as I always try to describe that in my former life, I was responsible for heading 2 institutes of technologies, 2 universities in Germany. So I have a little bit of a background with regard to entrepreneurship and startups from this side. And now I have changed the side of the desk, so to say, and try to catalyze new startups here in Brandenburg with financial aid and whatever is necessary in terms of providing a good environment. What I would actually like to do is to go even one step further than Ossi Savolainen just did. I would like to go back 20 years ago, believe it or not. But it was in 2002 when I did become vice president of the TU Berlin. And one of my first official tasks was to open a conference at our place of venue, hosted by the American sister organization of CEFI, the American Society of Engineering Education, and their topic was entrepreneurship. And at that time, I went to see my president, and I said, "What the hell is going on there? What's the topic they're talking about?" I was actually hardly able to write the word entrepreneurship properly because it was not used in a common way at that time. So next year, this has 20 years anniversary. So we are talking about startup environments, startup mentality, and whatever there is related to this topic almost 20 years ago. And fortunately, we did make some progress. But I spare you now, let's say, of the propaganda part of that speech to tell you that Brandenburg definitely is almost the best in Germany for setting up a startup. Having said that, I have made the statement and I spare you of the rest. But coming back to history at the moment, I look at Ossi Savolainen, if he's still with us or if he still can hear us. I do remember when the merger of the big universities in Helsinki took place, in entrepreneurship as a topic and as a scheme was already implemented at that time. I don't know whether Ryberg can listen to us already again. I know that he's responsible for the eastern region of Norway, but if I go to the western part, if I go to Trondheim, then I know that we did talk about entrepreneurship at NTNU as part of the engineering evaluation process, which I was obliged to head. So it is a topic for all of us for many, many years, and it is interesting that we still do have to talk about. And that actually poses a question which I will come back to in a couple of seconds. That means what is actually new about the topic, and what do we have to do in order to enhance the development further, which is definitely necessary. And this is something I think which was outlined by Markkula, a very good friend of mine from my Cefi times, in a pretty good way. Whatever climate protection does mean, it involves energy transition process. And this is something where we haven't solved all the problems yet, and where we do need the transfer process from the universities and from the external research organizations into actually business cases to exploit them in order to cope with the challenges posed by that topic. He named the cross-sectional technology digitalization, or IT, whether it's artificial intelligence and the involvement in many industrial processes, or whether it's just actually to handle big data and whatever has developed during the recent 5 to 6 years. We still do need help there from intelligent people coming from the universities and also coming from the external research organizations. So what do we have to do here? Okay, we have to re-evaluate the environment which we are offering to those startups. And I think that the topic here to enhance cooperation in the Baltic region is exactly one of the necessary answers which we do have to provide. Currently, many of the startups which are being founded develop their business case for the country they are based in. But what we actually should do, and this is also enhanced by the European Commission, what we actually should try to enhance is the cooperation across border lines, that the external market is directly taken into the focus of these activities. And how can we do that? And I think one possibility would be to still enhance the cooperation of all the universities involved in that region, and to enhance the exchange. So for instance, that startups who are in the accelerating phase try also to progress on this kind of their development, let's say for 3 or 4 months in a different country, in one of our neighboring countries here of the Baltic region. We still do have to look into the different, how shall I say, philosophies which have been developed in the recent 20 years. To name one example from the colleagues from Poland, sorry, it's not in Pommern, but it's in Warsaw. I have visited the Warsaw Technical University, and they have set up a whole building where they do combine everything from the very beginning of having the idea, or the incubating phase, the pre-incubating, the incubating phase, and the first years in business, all under one roof. And for me, what has been developed there at the Warsaw Technical University is one of the best practices I have ever seen during the recent 20 years. So what we should actually try to make use of is that experience, transfer it to Stettin, transfer it to other cities at the Baltic region, and to make use of these kind of best practices. That is something we really have to work on. And last but not least, one unsolved problem is still the question of mentality. I focus here, let's say, on the German mentality, and all up to you to transfer that to your own countries and to say whether this is similar or not. But if you look at parents and their perception of the education of their kids, then they still do prefer that they go to vocational training, because that's where you really learn something for the true work life, and which is safe. Even attending a university involves risk. And then setting up your own company, goodness me, that risk is almost uncalculatable. And what we still do lack of is the mentality of failure of a startup to say, so what, as long as the third attempt then is successful, then the other two which have failed is completely unimportant. And this is something we definitely have to work on at the universities to help to develop that mentality, to make sure that besides education and research, technology transfer is regarded as one of the 3 fundamental tasks of universities, that this has to be mirrored in their education and in preparing the right mentality within the heads of our young, highly skilled people. And if we do that in a combined way and making use of activities like, for instance, the joint common metropolitan region of Stettin, and I just was in touch with one of my Polish colleagues who is taking care of that project here, then we should set it on the agenda there, we should place it there, and we should not only talk here as politicians or policy makers, but we should also try to talk to the young people to provide them with best practices. And I can only say that at the very moment, I'm very proud here in Brandenburg because we have a startup in Schwedt at the refinery, and the CEO is a young lady and was listed among the 30 top startup CEOs of Forbes. And we need these kind of role models to still enhance the process of enhancing startup foundation. I think we're on a good way, but we still have work to do. That perhaps also as a little bit provocative statement for the following discussion. Thank you.
Thank you very much for this great insights, and also pointing out some challenges ahead and the ways that maybe we should focus more on developing and designing the successful policies that would, as you mentioned, change the way that we won't talk about this so much in 20 years, but it will work much more better than. I would like to check if Roger can now hear us and can connect.
Yes, I'm here now.
Okay,
just now,
really
10
great.
seconds ago, I'm afraid. So
Perfect time,
sorry,
Roger.
but it's the safety security system here. They shut down the Zoom system when I was speaking. So I don't know if they were afraid of the words I would say or anything else, but it was impossible to foresee. But I have had some good help from young students here in my administration, and they put me on. So let's try once again.
Okay,
Hope
so
that,
the floor is yours, Roger.
Okay, thank you so much. And I would like to say to you all that it's good to see you again, all here, still fresh and lively, and I hope you are in good shape, everyone. At least I am myself, though I'm getting rather old. I'm still fresh. And I hope this would your time with the doctor, Ossi, would be will come out good. So thank you for this invitation to take part in this webinar with a very relevant topic on the agenda. And the pandemic has made it even harder for young people to get a job, and thus more people are interested in creating their own workplace and becoming an entrepreneur. How do we here in our place support the young entrepreneurs in Viken County? We want to inspire young people to think new and create value. Young Enterprise Norway is the cornerstone of our work to build a strong entrepreneurial culture among young people. Surveys show that those who have participated in a youth or student company are more likely to start
Same procedure as last year. Looks like the system has killed him again.
And other actors works to develop the creation and young people's faith in themselves. It is a bridge builder between school and working life, and that is very important for us. Young Enterprise Norway is a part of Junior Achievement Europe and a member of the Junior Achievement Organization worldwide. Our objectives for supporting this entrepreneurial tools are: 1, to give young people an understanding of the importance of value creation and innovation in the business sector. 2, to promote young people's social skills and ability to collaborate and be responsible. For the 3rd, to provide and understand of and knowledge of ethics and rules in the business and working life. And point 4, to strengthen interaction in the local communities between business, working life, and tools. We also used it to stimulate cross-border cooperation through competitions and events for young enterprise businesses. Throughout the school year, young people learn to establish, operate, and wind up a business. Once they have worked on this, it is not as scary to realize their idea in real life. My county council, which is called Viken, is a supporter of young enterprise, and we use them as a strategic tool in our efforts to get more people to establish businesses, make them survive and grow. The goal is to contribute to more new jobs in the region. We have also a special focus on universities and university colleges. Students are more likely to put their ideas into practice than young people planning further studies. That is why we support businesses such as the Greenhouse at Østfold University College, which operates as an incubator for students and researchers who want to make their business idea into real business while studying, and one so-called Oak Idea workshop, ID Laboratory, we call it, at Norwegian University of Life Sciences. It's a new university which promotes green items. This is a student-driven offer to students who want to realize their own business ideas. I think we will continue to develop the possibilities that are given to students, and we will work to get entrepreneurship into the curricula of several subjects within higher education, not at least in the teacher education programs. Once established, the companies will also have access to our region-wide offer of free counseling and courses for startup jobs. They can also apply for admission to business cooperatives and incubators, jointly founded by the Viken County Council and national authorities. These incubators offer specific accelerator programs for those companies that have a particularly high potential for growth and value creation. To sum up, the Viken County Council sees that innovation and entrepreneurship are key drivers for sustainable development and green transformation, and have made them key elements in our regional development strategy. And this was so far from my point of view at this time. So thank you much for your attention. I hope you, I was clear enough, not interrupted by the security system here, avoiding that Zoom could be some special enemies. I don't know, but we're still together, I hope. So I hope this was okay with you. So from my thank you so much for your listening to these few words, and have a good day further on. And I will have a rather hard meeting with the stuff in my house.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Roger. Thank you very much. It was fine. We heard finally the all words that you said. So thank you for that. You've mentioned that the COVID-19 pandemics have changed the attitudes and even made the challenges bigger for our regions to deal and to support entrepreneurship. And it's also connected with employability of the young people, but it was also mentioned here. So for many of them, being an entrepreneur or businessman means simply having a job in our post-pandemic times. I would like to ask the question to all of you, how actually have you observed already the new tendencies in your regions and changes in approach to design and plan programs supporting academia-based or young entrepreneurs? And if yes, if you can share with us some examples. And maybe first I would ask Mr. Struk to start our discussions, and I hope that we can exchange this insight on the.
Thank you for this question. The outbreak of the pandemic in 2020 made it necessary to reformulate the priorities of activities undertaken in the area of entrepreneurship in education. The first half of 2020 is primarily crisis management. During this period, many projects were implemented and organized to help and support people in finding themselves in the new conditions, also young entrepreneurs. The pandemic situation has shown that the goal that we have set for the year 2020 to build a model of education and support for youth entrepreneurship by 2021 is the right direction to take, and it is necessary to implement measures to deal with the emerging crisis situation. The second half of 2020 in entrepreneurial education involved building a network of change leaders, implementing activities supporting competences that strengthen entrepreneurial attitudes, personal development, and helping young people to enter the dynamically changing labor market. The original plan to build the entrepreneurship education ecosystem for 2020 included the implementation of a number of projects supporting youth education, talent development, and preparation for entering the labor market. Thanks to crisis management, the projects were remodeled and adapted to the new situation. As for a few examples, I can mention here the following initiatives. Point one, program entitled Entrepreneurship Classes, carried out by the Inspirational Examples Foundation, organized as regular meetings between young people and entrepreneurs. Academic Business Incubator, operating since December 2013, is located at the Gdańsk University of Technology. It is the youngest and at the same time the most besieged by Pomorskie companies incubator in the Tri-City. The task is to find talents, develop their ideas, competences, and knowledge, bringing students closer to the needs of the labor market. Gdańsk Business Week, a few days of intensive and international summer youth entrepreneurship camp. The aim of the program is to develop the participants knowledge of business and entrepreneurship, increase their professional motivation and adjust their competences to the needs of the labor market.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Marshall, for these few examples and of this focus on remodeling current programs, which is a way for sure that is probably followed also by other regions. Roger, are there any new programs or initiatives that you observed in your regions, or maybe some new focus is given to the existing program, or they were being remodeled, like in Pomorskie region, in response to the COVID pandemics?
Yeah, I see the same picture as Mr. Struk just told you about the challenges in his own countries and his own country. We do much of the same time, but we have put lots of pressure now to the towards the state level to provide more money, to have more students and people out of jobs, having new directions in practical skills and things like that. So together with the regional money, there are quite many people now who are engaged in this. So so there are many programs, but it's also together with the some of the universities, and of course many of the small not factories but small enterprises with people who can have a new start and hopefully have a prosperous future if it's possible. But there are quite good examples of people who are now being unemployed, out of studying, sitting mostly on their own, lockdown in these times. They are now back on the track, and we are now opening this months to come for more open life in society after hard lockdown. But I think we now is seeing a new future according to this pandemic, though we are very much aware of that. Don't go too forward in too big. Don't drive too fast. Take it successfully, and in that way we can provide more jobs and people getting in positive activity. But both the state and the region are willing to support with money. So quite many are now occupied in this field. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Steinbach, what about Brandenburg? You also focus on this attitude, this mentality, and actually this lack of maybe the best mentality in actually, maybe it's not probably the problem in Germany, but in Europe that we have in all of our countries. So we have the great examples of American, entrepreneurial spirit and the attitudes from the early age, and the universities that are very much focused on commercialization, their research, and we are starting really to enhance this process in our own European universities. But what about the pandemics? Do you think that this is some kind of maybe changing point to change the mentality and to help to focus and to see the need to be your own boss, to start your company, to actually increase the employability in our regions to deal with the consequences of the pandemics?
Well, I think we are trying to address this topic on different layers, so to say. What our students are suffering most of at the moment is the lockdown of the universities. And there are students who enrolled more or less 1.5 years ago and never have been sitting together in a lecturing hall and did have all the social contacts which are an integral part of getting your education at a university. And so we are fighting quite severely that the next teaching term will be one in presence again, and that way that the impact of the pandemic on the, let's say, study culture here, that this remains limited, or that this gets cured in a very fast way. The second layer is actually the startups which have been founded just about 1.5 years, 2 years ago. Many of them have started their business based on certain credits or loans from banks. So when the pandemic did have its impact on these startups, it mainly did have an impact on their liquidity, and they had to seek for fresh money, and it was difficult to obtain that because they already did have more or less made use of the whole frame they're entitled to have loans from the banks. And it was our emphasis here from my ministry to provide special access to fresh money for startups based on conditions which are not comparable to the normal loans you can obtain from banks, and that way to help the survival of as many startups as possible. And that leads to the third level of the discussion. As I said, that we are, as you put it here, in the whole of Europe, are not really born with a risk-affinite mentality. We have to make sure that the number of startups which really suffer under the pandemic and perhaps even have to shut down their activities, that this number of startups remains rather limited, because they would enhance the fear to follow that pathway. And so we are putting more emphasis on the survival path for the existing startups in order to show that even that you can be resilient even against such a pandemic, because the state will provide financial aid in that situation to the startups. And that way we try to mitigate or to limit the impact, the mentality impact, so to say, with respect to entrepreneurial activities.
Thank you very much. Maybe we have still some time for the second question that you could, discuss together. So, what is the most challenging in designing policy and planning dedicated programs when we think about facilitation and support for business by young entrepreneurs in your regions? And it's not in the context of the pandemic itself, although now it's probably harder. It's in general. And maybe you have any examples of systems of evaluation, monitoring implemented in your region, how successful such programs are. And maybe Mr. Struk can start first.
I believe that the desired model of cooperation between the voivodeship and the business sector is one that does not close to any single support paths, but is implemented in a holistic and comprehensive manner, taking into account not only formal tax and subsidy instruments, but also initiating various forms of cooperation and coordination of companies and institutions. Of course, we as the region designate many different direct support instruments, including subsidies, grants, loans, and guarantees for business, including those from EU funds. But this should not be the core of a successful business support program strategy. The holistic approach to business support should aid in boosting the initiatives and grassroots activities through inter alia promotion and strategic management. Network cooperation understood in this way, thanks to mutual interactions, generates synergistic effects and increases the innovativeness of the economy. The basis for cooperation is also the information exchange made inter alia through IT instruments and building the trust. I believe that thanks to this approach, Pomorskie will continue on this path towards improving support of businesses by young entrepreneurs, and will also be able to monitor their development as an important element of regional business environment.
Okay, Roger, would you like to tell us about the challenges in Viken and in Norway, maybe in general? What do you have in designing such programs and support initiatives?
Yes, thank you for the question. They're very actual, and the things we have been working very much with is a new attitude and a new approach between education through high schools, universities, and ordinary schools in the gymnasium system and the industry, because there are lots of industry, big international industry, and those who are sub-industry delivering services for the main industry, and we try to build down the borders between industrial life, real life out there, and the educational life, and that is a challenge for me as a professional, because I'm a long-term educated pedagogue, but quite many of my colleagues, they don't want to mix so much with the local industry. They want to have their own futures in the educational system. But I think we have to think new. And have also, with the help of and own money, working out new systems so that we could build down the gaps and the borders between, I hope to see, real life and education, so that we can have a better future together. We're a small nation, only about 5 million people, so we have to work together, whether we are in the official state or in the private companies. So we are working very much with that and have quite a good examples of how to succeed. But this is a new way of thinking, which is very important to us, also in the Viken system. Thank you.
Thank you, Roger. Mr. Steinbach, would you like to add anything from the perspective of Brandenburg, and maybe also refer to any system of evaluation or monitoring if you implement anything like that in Brandenburg?
Yes, we do that constantly, and we are currently setting up kind of a revamped system for the support of young startups or those who intend to found a startup. And I think there are two things which are still a challenge. One is, and please bear with me that I perhaps use a strange wording here, we still do need the truffle pigs, you know what I mean? Those who are working at the universities in research or at other organizations in research normally do not have the reflection to say, this is something worthwhile to make a business case out of it, and to form your own startup with that there is a business case behind a certain development. So we need trained people, we need scouts who more or less do come through the whole country and look for these hidden champions and provide them with support and with motivation and even perhaps with the self-recognition, hey, I've got something in my hands which is worthwhile of having your own enterprise. This is one thing. The second thing is that I think we still have to re-evaluate the access to venture capital. We are not in Silicon Valley, we are not in Israel. The situation does have improved, but I think there is still space above it where we can have an improvement. And so venture capital is still a challenge. And these are the two things we are focusing based on an evaluation of our current system to attract more people, to find more people, to find the hidden champions, and to provide them with new means to get access to venture capital.
Okay, thank you very much. We have already covered, I think, a lot of aspects of cooperation and the challenges ahead of all regional planners and policymakers to establish the right and supporting conditions for the young entrepreneurs and also academic-based entrepreneurs to start successful businesses and also internationalize, as it was also pointed out. You have also all touched the problem of the importance actually of cross-border cooperation between the regions and learning from each other, from good practices, and creating cross-border ecosystems when the enterprises could actually work together, internationalize, and be successful. Not to be only the startup, but to become from the startup a real operating and successful company that would bring real revenues and also create new jobs in the future. I would like to thank you very much for this interesting discussion in the first part of our event. Thank you especially to those politicians who stayed with us till the end of the panel, Mr. Struk, Mr. Ryberg, Mr. Steinbach. I hope that our discussions today and this exchange will open us up for the new ways of cooperating and building successful partnerships, also cross-border, and maybe also not only in the Baltic Sea region. And I would like us all to invite you for the short coffee break, and we will meet at 12 for our expert panel to discuss the practical and now the insight for the entrepreneurial ecosystem, how they should be successful from the practitioner's point of view. So thank you very much for the discussion. And have a lovely day. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.